The rigorous mathematics works towards NCTM's equity goals. So we all talk about equity. We all say it's needed, but how many of us actually in practice equity? So this is what NCTM gives us. Equity involves high expectations and strong support for all students. All students, all meaning including those ones who had those 504 plans in your class. Need your support too. Equity says that it's those students who don't behave well in your class, those who give you a hard time, those who may have did some things that they shouldn't have done to you, but they still need equitable access. So here we have this kid on the board writing all this stuff. And as he writes this stuff, and he goes forward and thinking, what can I be? Well, I want to introduce you, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Sorensen's framework for organization differentiation of students. And it simply says this, and I know we thought we fixed it earlier, but I guess it came back. So you have vertical differentiation, which is when they actually start to separate the students. Inclusiveness. Then you have the assignment procedure and scope and rigidity. Inclusiveness meaning that how often are the students actually included when they can be excluded. Assignment procedure is how do you actually assign your students? Is it a method that you have that everybody can follow so that it's meritorious? Or is it something that you just say, okay, well, Sally, I'm going to give you this one, and Johnny, I'm going to give you this one, and Tom, I'm going to give you this one. Believe it or not, that's how some people assign their classes. Or do you just give your best friend the classes, all the students that you want to say, well, Johnny's good, Susie is good, Sam is good, but Thomas is going to give you trouble, so we're going to send him down the way. Oh, yeah, he's smart and he does all his work, but he's a troublemaker. So I don't want to deal with Thomas. So since I don't want to deal with Thomas, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook you up, girl. I'm not going to put him in your class. Scope and rigidity. Scope is how much they get to move. Because some of these things, for some students, the light comes on a little later. You know, I might be in my classes and I don't realize until about junior year that I decide, you know, I might actually want to go to college. I should still have the opportunity to go to college, but sometimes the assignment procedure and how things are done have locked students out that can have the amazing ability that's come on later on, but because of the way they started, they're locked out. Oh, there it is. So here we're going to go through the basic things, the data collection, student participation, data analysis, finding, and implications for practice. So number one, this is the beautiful state of North Carolina. I'm telling you, amazing place to live. You got the mountains, we got the beach. Did I say we had a beach? We have the beach, and then we border in Virginia, and we have two of the major highways in the whole world run through there, 95 and 40, right smack through the middle of North Carolina. But North Carolina also has some very rural spots. Outside of the District 3, everything else is pretty much rural until you get down to the Southwest 6th District in North Carolina, which would include where Charlotte is. So these districts get different maps and they get different numbers. So I wanted you just to see kind of where we collected. We looked at 5th grade cohort data, and we followed those students to the 8th grade placement. Now, we started out with like 800 some student files, and by the time we got through and really shuffled the data and to see what did we have that was really good, only 92. What does that tell you? Somebody has poor data management. So remember, no child left behind came down and said, hey, look, you got to collect all this data. They're collecting it, but they don't know how to aggregate it. Does that sound familiar? Well, we have it somewhere where, and they got stuck in some notebooks. I'm not kidding you, stuck in notebooks and other places. So the data is not even electronic, so we can go in there and look and evaluate and help them make database decisions and look at things and find trends and all this kind of stuff. It's being collected, but how is it being collected? These are some of the things that you want to think about when you start to go into your classroom with these data, when data's coming out. How is it collected? What does that mean? In North Carolina, we have this thing called Power School. And in Power School, all the grades and all the test scores and all that stuff goes into Power School. So we're going to look at course predictions. Some of the courses that students, they have a assignment procedure that they have. a formula that they have, that they say students should get in at this rate. We want to see who actually gets in versus who was told that they were going to get in. Also, we're looking at the academically gifted program. Well, one of the things you're going to find out about the academically gifted program, once AG, always AG. Is that true? I'm asked, I like crowd participation. AG, once in, always in? In North Carolina, you are. Are you sure about that in your states? Because once you pass that test, once you get a certain score on that test and you get labeled AG, they don't go back looking for you, baby. Now, if you got access to the highest classes and you're not doing that well in them, are you going to go in there and find somebody and say, hey, look, take me out of the highest classes and put me in the poorest stuff? No. So what happens is when students get labeled as a AG and now they get access and then later on they don't perform at an AG level, they still get access to AG classes, which is what? Keeping other students who now perform on the AG level, they don't get access. Are y'all following me? Because what? They're clogging up the spots. So here the study, it was pretty much right down the middle by the time we cleaned all this data. 45% black, 48% black, 43 male, 56 female, Hispanic, and then we had the multiracial and then white. Prediction policy. Here they had a prediction policy. What this LEA did here, they would take the previous scores. In North Carolina, we have this thing called the intergrade testing. And at the end of every year, they have an intergrade test that they would take, and they would get scored from 1 to 5. And based on what you get scored from 1 to 5, would determine the next year's placement. So here they have this policy. So some schools have policies, some schools don't have policies. I would encourage you to, whatever school you work at, find out what the policy is, if there is a policy. Sometimes the policy is just whatever the secretary puts them at. Sometimes the policy is wherever the principal says put them at. And most parents do not know that you have the opportunity to go to the school and question that. All the Asian kids' parents do. In North Carolina, they almost always have access. Why? Because they go and they challenge things. A lot of the students who are of color do not even go because they don't even know. And that's another thing, because they don't even go because they know, but also because they struggle with their own mathematical identities. I was not good in math, so I'm not expecting you to be good in math. So if you get a C, then I'm okay with that. So then the low expectation starts at the home. Because the parents saying that I didn't do well, I'm not expecting you to do well, so if you do mediocre, I'm okay with mediocrity. You see what you're fighting against? So what did they say? I just put one of the prediction models. And this is what looks very complicated, right? That post has been funny. But anyway, y'all killing me. So here they had the grade from the fourth. EOG is the grade score from the previous year. So they grade 4, then grade 5, then they do the mean of 4 and 5, then the standard deviation, and then they have the standard deviation of the entire 6th grade and the mean of the entire 6th grade. And they put it into this formula, and they get this score. Now, in North Carolina, they have some other models that they use that's based off the SAS model, because SAS is right there in North Carolina, and they do all this amazing work. But those are proprietary models, and you ain't going to get that information. All right, so I want to know, is there a significant difference between the number of 6th grade students who were prepared to be in 8th grade algebra versus the actual number that was in 8th grade algebra? So if you got predicted to be in 8th grade algebra, did you actually get access to 8th grade algebra? So if 8 people supposed to get access, did all 8 of them get it? Furthermore, is there a significant difference in access levels to mathematics courses between students designated as academically gifted and those who are not so designated? So designation, you have to take a test through the guidance counselor, typically in most cases, and that guidance counselor would deem you okay. If you scored a certain amount on this IQ test, then either you are AG or you're not AG. Now, the thing with testing, we know all kinds of biases and things we have in testing, but that's the only method that they have right now. So that's what they're using. So for the purposes of this, we had students broke down to either you got in and you was in these other maths, and we used the chi-square distribution to study those and observe those differences. So either you was in the advanced courses or you was in the other maths. Because NCTM stance on equity is that students should have access to the most rigorous math courses possible within their school. This wasn't happening. So let's look at it a little bit. So here in grade 6, 36 was predicted to gain access. By their model now, I didn't make this up. This is their model. Their model said 36 should get in, but only 10 actually got access. Why is that? If 36 students qualified, why only 10 took it? That was for the 6th grade. So we did the same thing for the 7th grade. Well, there's that same 10 again, I guess. I don't know. But one could probably safely assume, is that the same 10? Predicted to gain access, but only got in? How about here? The advanced placement courses. These are the same students. 11 of them academically gifted. The other 81 didn't get in. So if they in, they're in. Same thing with when they was in 7th grade. We had one student gain access who typically was not gaining access before. One.